Yes, we turn our attention now to the national conference. We're joined now by Jido Ilo, who is the country officer for the Open Society Initiative for West Africa. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, after all the what some describe as the pomp and circumstance, it's time to fold their sleeves and get down to work. The national conference begins in Abuja. Well, your group supports governance. Is there any link for what your group can do and what the conference is doing?
I mean,
in terms of governance now.
Yeah, the Open Society Initiative for West Africa is committed to good governance, open society, robust and active civil society, and accountable institutions of government. And I see a perfect fit with what we do and what we assume are the intentions of this conference. So, I mean, there's a synergy.
So what will your expectations be now as we get into this conference?
Well, my expectations are very cautious to start with, because as much as we agree that there's a necessity for dialogue, the structural platform within which this dialogue is situated has its own weaknesses and challenges. And so one to look at this with a little bit of caution. So my expectation for now is the ability of the individuals who are there to openly and freely discuss the concerns of governance, the concerns of the governance process in Nigeria, the challenges of poverty and all of those stuff. So my expectation is let people talk.
Are you doubting the caliber of delegates?
No, I mean, I don't have the resources or the extra intel to say, what their capacities are. But, given what I know in terms of how it all started, the fact that this is not underpinned by any legislative enactment, the fact that the relationship between this conference and National Assembly is not very clear, the fact that the constitutional process is ongoing, a parallel process, the intersections are not very clear. I mean, you just have to limit your expectations.
When we talk about limitations, we saw the president, he spoke yesterday, and he also gave his worry and concern of what some people already think in that particular conference to be. I remember first, before it started, we had so many kinds of comments, some in agreement with that particular conference, while some actually said they were not going to participate. But at the end of it all, we had seen that almost every Nigerian has said, we must talk. And but for some, there's still some little bit of bickering, saying that it should have actually had a taint of ethnic issues. Is your own body, having looked at it from the start, as well as the convocation of it yesterday, thought it's wise that we should have gone that way?
First of all, I think the skepticisms you get about this conference is rooted on historical facts. We've been down this road before. And so it is natural for Nigerians to feel, okay, I mean, here we go again. So I think the fact that people are a little bit wary of what is going on right now behoves on government to take additional step, behoves on the members of this conference to take the additional step to make sure that what happens here is something that is going to resonate with a new Nigeria that we'll envisage. However, I mean, in terms of the issue of ethnicity, personally, I think that democratic dialogue should be without limits. Let people define for themselves what are the limits of their conversation, but not being preempted. So, I mean, that's my own personal opinion. Well, I guess there are also some other information we may not be privy to that may have guided the president to give the directions he's given for this conference. And so I think it's important that we all approach this process with the mindset that, that's good faith, unless we see obvious contradictions of that good faith.
The beginning is very important, and I like it where you said, well, we've gone down this road before, and for some, it is here we go again. And how well can we show from this very start some kind of indication, give some kind of indication that it's not going to go down this road of previous talks?
I think it's too early to say. It's too early to say. This is a very difficult country. Conversations about nationhood, conversations about governance, conversations about democracy are not easy in themselves. And so it will be, I don't think it would be fair to the members of this conference to, from what happened between yesterday and today to say, oh, maybe it will go well, maybe it will not go well. I want to approach this conversation with a mindset that anything is possible. And what's actually, as a Nigerian, what I've learned is that most times when people create processes, even if it's just for the cosmetic value or just for the purposes of, assuaging interests, most times it runs away from them. And so I don't think the caliber of people who sit in the conference, men and women who have given blood and sweat for this country, will go to this conference, waste 3 months and go home. I'm hoping that they're going to leave this place, giving us something as a country we have to think about.
Let's compare the statement accredited to the president before the conference started and what he said yesterday. The way he said there are certain areas that cannot be discussed, that the divisibility of the country should not be ventured into. But see what he said yesterday, or what he was quoted as saying, social media has greatly enlarged the space for the discussion of our country's future. Now, weigh that against the statement he was quoted as saying earlier, the divisibility of Nigeria cannot be discussed. Do you think there will be any no-go areas?
I mean, here we'll go with the clear language of the president. He said, the unity of Nigeria is not negotiable. People have issues with that because in a democracy, it should be negotiable. I mean, but these are questions that maybe the researchers can go back to and begin to chew. But the point is, I think no president, and we have to be fair, no president will want to sit over the decimation of this country.
Democracy or not?
Democracy or not democracy. No president. Everybody will want to say, not on my watch. Is that correct? I think it's left for posterity to judge.
What about the school of thought that says, look, we have to have, or we should have had, a healthier percentage or a healthier dose of young people, the younger generation, because that's the future of this country?
I'm happy you asked that question. It's become a permanent feature of this country to neglect the young people. And it is really very pathetic. Because looking back at the history of this country, as at the time Gowon was the president of Nigeria, he was about 30 years. And if they could do it then, and I mean, truth be told, they did a terrible job out of it. We got a civil war. If they could do it then, why do they think the younger people of today cannot do it? So it's really, really pathetic. You look at the legislations, you look at the constitution about all the age discrimination in getting elected to various governmental posts. And it's sad. And I really think that if you're going to be talking about my future, I should be part of it.
What do you think about the argument for and against those who think, well, maybe because they haven't shown enough capacity, the younger generation, to actually step into some of those shoes and make the mark, while others think, what are you people talking about? You did it at that time, at that age. We are a different generation. Of course, we've got a lot more experience in terms of generational change. So why shouldn't we?
The standards have fallen, I agree. My father, as at the time he finished his standard 6, could talk about Shakespeare, could eloquently recite pages and chapters from the great works of Shakespeare. It can't happen right now. And I agree that standards have fallen. But I think it is really, really, really annoying for people to say that the youths cannot do any of this thing. You never give them a chance. You do come. Imagine that somebody who is the youth minister is old enough to be my father. It doesn't just make sense. And so if you don't give people the opportunity to prove themselves, it is difficult for you to judge them. And I think that increasingly, if we continue in this path, youths will begin to see themselves as not part of the process. They'll begin to disengage with government, and that is going to be one of the greatest mistakes of this generation. And keep in mind also that you have an education sector that is fallen, that you have an unprecedented unemployment rate in the country. Keep in mind also that people are getting tired. People are trying to apply their energy to other things. You can't afford, the youth bulge in Nigeria is not only dangerous, I think it's a disservice to the country that we're not trying to find ways to utilize the youth. And so when you look at the ratio of the old and the young in this conference, it tilts more to the older generation. And yes, I agree that we need to bring in historical perspective. You need to bring in all those beautiful whatever about history. But truth be told, these guys are the one that messed up the country. And well, if we're going to clean it up, we should let the youths be involved, very much involved in that process.
Well,